All right, a quick preview for what's in here. So our goal, if you look at this lovely video I made, let's see. So this is our general goal. I've got, can we see this kind of? I got two discs. One's got Bugs Bunny on it, one's got Daffy on it, right? The Bugs Bunny one's spinning that direction, the Daffy one's spinning this direction. Maybe I'll back up, right? And after they collide, right, they're now spinning this way slower, right? That's the general goal. So you'll note that the top one was spinning slower to the left, the bottom one was spinning quicker to the right, and that's what's going on there, right? Questions on goal? Cool. I kind of broke this down to a bunch of different steps. So we're basically just going to go through all these. Step number 1, create some cylinders. Step number 2, add some texture so you can actually see them spinning. Step number 3, have them rotate in place, potentially just have one rotating, right? Step number 4 is have it actually move until they collide while it's rotating. And then step number 5 is actually have them rotate together in the same kind of general direction and stuff. Cool, take a stab at step 1. Create 2 cylinders. I put some hints on here. Make sure they're a reasonable size. Make sure your axis stuff works correctly. If you don't know how to make cylinders well, Google it. We'll check back in 4 minutes. And you'll note that you're going to need all 3 of these guys. So pause, axis, and size. If you don't know how they work, you can read in here or just guess and check. But there's a bunch of stuff in there. Oh, this is interesting. Apparently you can code this in JavaScript instead of Python. Why? I think it's JavaScript. There you go, JavaScript. I'm not going to actually do this, I'm just curious what it looks like. Huh, interesting. Actually, maybe you got to change. Well, you specify at the top. You gotta play around with the attributes until you actually get them disc-like. Yep, and change your second position.
Change the Y, considering that this is so small, it works.
Why do you make it so small?
Because if it don't make it small, like, it used to work.
So why don't you make these bigger? Okay, cool. Why don't you just make it bigger? So make these like one.
If you make it bigger, that's gonna go.
At least use Google, come on.
That's not like this.
Let's just comment this one up. So that's super wide. Right?
I did a little bit.
Okay,
Okay.
So do you know what these 3 things do? So this guy right here is your height.
Yeah.
and then this is your length and your width. Right? So if you make the height bigger, like 0.1, then your length and your width need to be bigger. So 1 and 1. It's 1 and 1. Right, so it's 10 times as wide as it is tall. Right, and now you got real big numbers. Mm-hmm. Cool. If you pulled off step 1, add some texture. Anybody need help with the cylinders? Is that a me?
No.
Cool. Sure.
Oh, it disappeared. Great.
For the image, you have to put a URL, right?
Yep.
So where do you usually go to for websites?
Anything on Pinterest works.
On what?
Sorry, not Imager.
Imgur.
Anything on Imager.
What did you say?
Is that Imager? I'm calling it Imager. Is that
Imager? Imgur?
It's Imager, but.
Yeah, anything on Imgur works. Let's see, 1, 10, 10.
Use this.
Cool. If you can't figure out how to just add the cylinders by themselves, something like this works. Right? You'll note that. I realize a bunch of you guys have already figured this out, but you'll note that you want this attribute here to be smaller than these two so you can actually get a disk. Right? And then the axis, if you put 1 in the y, what that's going to do is that's going to point it, basically the flat part is going to be up. Right? And then positions, you just want them in a certain way so that one's on top of the other. Right? For textures, I would say there's 2 different ways to do textures. Texture, glow script.
You just do texture equals and then
Right. So you can either do texture and then there's a whole bunch of textures. So if you go in here, what the heck? Well, anyways, one example is like this stucco, whatever, right? So you can do texture equals texture dot stucco, textures dot stucco, right? That will work, right? So we can see, here's my one thing here, right? So it's got this, wow, you can't see that at all, can you? Here you go, right? So you can see there's this little grainy material. Right, so if I rotate it, you'll be able to see that happen. Right, the other way to do it is using an Imgur thing. Imgur, can somebody give me a theme that I want to add to mine? Trash. Great. I hope this isn't internet trash, this is real trash.
we'll see.
Perfect. This one.
You can just copy link. Right click and copy. Yeah.
Copy link address.
Copy image address.
No, copy link.
No,
copy image address. Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be an Imgur. It can be like anything.
Just copy
Yep.
the image.
Texture equals, right? You could do something like that. Right? That'll work.
I see a logo.
So now we have some trash as my top one. It's pretty sweet. Thank you, David. All right, cool. So something like that. All right, so some sort of image.
It works. Partially works.
All right, everybody get that to work? Sure.
Oh, I see.
They're spinning, you know.
Cool. Step 3 is to actually get them to spin. You'll note that I added some comments on this. There's 2 different ways to rotate. One is literally use the rotate function. I would recommend not doing that. I repeat, don't use the rotate. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use the axis property. Right? So we did that before, if we remember that wheel that we did. Right? Everybody remember that? Where we had the wheel with all the spokes and we rotated that thing? Right? So for that, we used axis. So we want to do that again. Now, the problem on this, does anyone see, based on the code that I already have, talk to your neighbor, what issues are we going to have trying to get this thing to rotate using the axis? Talk to your neighbor. I repeat, talk to your neighbor. What issues are you going to have using the current axis attribute, trying to rotate it? What issues are we going to have?
That's what I think it was.
Cool, we're not doing a good job of talking to our neighbors. I repeat, take number 3, talk to your neighbors. What's the problem with using the axis attribute? Talia, talk to your neighbor.
I don't really know the answer. I'm listening to them.
Okay.
It might spin like a helicopter. You know, like a coin. Yeah, it'll spin sideways. I think yes. Change the axis of rotation. I don't know.
Wait, but like, I just tried the texture thing. It didn't work.
We can come back to that. So just to recap, last time when we wanted to get the wheel to rotate, all we did was just do something like wheel.axis equals some vector. Right? So that's how we rotated things last time. All right, does anyone see any issues on our current code that's going to happen if I try to do the same thing, like disk.axis equals something? Do we already see axis in here anywhere?
Oh, yeah. 0, 1.
Yeah, right here. So if we try to rotate this thing, right? Remember, I'm trying to rotate this direction, right? Like that, right? Right now, if I change the axis attribute, what's going to happen?
Flip.
It's going to flip like that, right? We don't want that, right? No, not good, right? So what did we do last time? Why did this work last time?
The axis was already where we wanted it.
Not that. It's because we used the compound right here, right? We had a whole bunch of objects and then we rotated all of them, right? So we're going to do the exact same thing here. We're going to build a compound with one element in it, right? So I'm going to just make, oops, this is disk 2. So disk 1 comp equals compound, right? How do we make compounds? Disk 1, it's close. We need one other couple characters. Cool, Google compound, figured out how to do it.
Square bracket.
Yep, we need the square brackets, right? Because it is an array or a list or whatever you want to call it in Python, right? If you're a Java person, it would be called an array. In Python, it is typically called a list. So we got disk 1 comp is the compound with disk 1. Disk 2 comp is the compound with disk 2. Boom, boom. Right? Cool. I have a strange feeling we are not going to be finishing this whole thing today, but we'll see. Take a stab at actually rotating this thing. I'll give you a hint. You're going to use this guy. Let's see. Rotate using the axis for disk 1 comp. You'll note that you need a loop while something. Yes, ma'am.
What's the function of the square bracket?
What's the function of the square bracket? Good question. So compound, let's take a step back. Cylinder, this is a function. right? What this does is this builds a cylinder with all of these random attributes. Yeah? Same idea down here, compound is a function as well. It builds a compound from a list. So we have to pass in a list in order to build a compound. Now I only want one element in my compound, so I'm literally building a list with one thing in it. But it requires a list to build one. Does that make sense?
But like the compound like combines things together.
It combines things together, and I'm combining one thing by itself.
So they don't
That-
allow textures in the compound object.
Oh yeah, they don't allow textures in compound objects. Good point. We can stick our texture down here. Sorry, I forgot about that one. So we'll do disk1 comp dot texture equals that guy, right? So we attach the texture to the compound instead of the element by itself. You need the texture. Why do we need the texture? You can't see it rotating, right? We're trying to rotate this thing. If you just have something that's all the same color everywhere, when you rotate it, you can't tell,
Oh, okay.
right? So we need to actually be able to see it rotating. Right, cool. For rotations, we need a time. Right, we need initial, so angle. I guess angle initial is just 0. Right, we need angular speed. What letter should we use for that? Angular velocity. W. So W1 equals how fast we want it to spin in radians per second. 10? That would be really fast. Sure, try it. 2. Right, remember there are 2 pi radians in a whole circle. So if we wanted to do like a half rotation per circle, maybe we do just pi. Right, I don't know. Sure. Can do pi divided by 4, that'll be slow, but that's fine. Right, while something. Right, cool. Just make a random loop, right? While true. Whatever. While t is less than 10. Alright, I just want to have it rotating in place here. Alright, cool. Take a stab at doing that. Is it always in March? Oh, that is not. I agree. No, something else. No, specific one. It's in the notes.
Yeah, what's your photo?
It's very good.
Oh,
So you
did
just make up your
you
own.
was-
I took the one.
I saw that.
That doesn't sound right. That guys.
I'm gonna go look at my trinkets.
Feel like I did
See
something
the one
else.
that we did the rotation. I spin it and we went up.
Uh-oh, good luck. Debugging with trinket.
No, it crashed.
It's rotating this way.
Is it? Oh, interesting. That's clever. That's because you're rotating the object, not the compound. Oh, shoot. That's interesting.
Maybe
I
think
wasn't
of it
expecting
this.
that to happen.
This is wrong. Maybe you put this part. Should these be? Or should
Try
you-
changing the y or
Like
the
zero.
z. The y should be constant. You want to be changing the z-axis. Huh? Sure. Yay, look at that. Is it accelerating?
Very good. Yeah, it's accelerating.
Solid, dude.
Oh, you took this from nice spinning wheel. Then you should be fun.
Oh, you're using data. You replace it with W, but
It's almost like you made it. Almost. Very fast there.
very fast. Very fast.
Oh,
Oh, God. Oh, yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, just a reminder, when you're rotating this, you want to be keeping the y the same. So you're actually going to be rotating x and z. Uh-huh.
You're making the y 0?
Yes. I see it.
Yeah, I think I'm trying
Yeah, I was just saying you don't want to do that because we don't actually use our system when you do it that way.
Wow. So the axes are opposite to what we think.
It's really confusing.
Interesting. Why does it do that?
Well, you wanna so.
Because the axes are different.
Just if you want to accelerate.
Oh, because I know we're looking at it from a side view rather than a top view.
On the acceleration.
Like before, we were looking at it from the XY plane.
Shoot.
And now I think I know why.
Because you don't have to. Oh.
We're perceiving it from a side view. I think that's why.
We are perceiving it from the front on view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to make this thing drop now, I assume,
Yeah.
Yep.
at a constant rate or accelerate.
It's like rotating the Y, and then it would be like, that's like rotating the Y axis, right? You go rotate along the X and Z instead of Y and X.
Can you move the? You can move the.
All right, so we can see the reason why we want it. So we want it to change such that the Y is the same for this, but the X and the Z are changing. Right? That's why that rotate's going to actually be on that. So on this, we're going to be doing what? Disc1 comp dot axis equals. Well, let's see. So angle equals. Oh, that could be it. Cool. We'll pick this up next time.
Yeah. So
I would say attempt to get things rotating in that direction for homework. Spend 10 to 15 minutes. If you don't figure it out, shoot me an email as to where you got. I repeat, attempt for 10 to 15 minutes. If you can't figure it out, shoot me an email as to where you got.
okay.
I'll stick that on Schoology.
It's challenging. We're getting there, right?
We're getting there.
Don't forget WebAssign. I don't know when the due date is. Next Monday. For both of them, or one of them, or
One of them's due tonight.
one of them is due tonight. I didn't give you enough time to work on that. Do you need more time on that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll move it back to Tuesday, but there'll be two due on Tuesday. Okay, so Tuesday will be just a work period. Okay, and I won't do SHM until you guys have done all that stuff. Okay? It's good to kind of go over the lab anyway.
Later.
Okay, see you guys. Good, again. So you make it a compound object, then you can rotate the thing.
Right.
So that's the trick in this.
That's the trick.
Okay. And then
The object to
see
rotate.
you guys. Okay.
Later. Have a good one.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. There's a form, right?
Yeah,
You
so-
fill that all out.
Yeah,
And-
the issue is that since I'm leaving, it needs to be sent either directly to the new school or to the chancellor. Is there one that you prefer?
That's a good question. So normally what happens is the school will send your transcripts and all that sort of stuff to your new school, and then they'll send you like a rec letter. And then they'll, so usually I sort
You
of,
send it
in the
directly
past,
to
I
the
give it to like, who's your counselor, college counselor right now? Corbush. So I would give it to her, and then she would send my rec letter with all the other stuff that she has to send out. So just keep me up to date on the due dates.
Sure.
So like
And
I'm
that would
not
be
sure.
in my new school. I would keep that.
Yeah, you send my email. You can email me, and just let me know. Like sometimes they'll have college recs. Will be like they'll have their own form that like some schools will be like, here, if you fill this website to do that thing. So just keep me in the loop. Make sure the big thing is deadlines for me. If you just tell me, like don't tell me 2 days. It's due in 2 days, and then just say yeah. But we'll have our deadline by I think it's usually October 15th is the early ones, and then like November, like October 31st or November 1st is sort of everyone else. So I assume that's the same deadline for you on your side.
Yeah, they would be.
Yeah, and then normally what happens is I just send them to your counselor. But so before you leave, make sure you go on and do the form that we use. So there's a teacher form that you fill out, like on your family connection, I think that's what they call it. So there's a recommendation letter form you probably your counselor talked about, and they basically I would just reiterate, just make sure to give me examples to illustrate the stuff that you do.
Okay.
So like if you want, when you're talking about your strengths, you're good at coding, for example, give me an example where you're good at coding, right? So that way I can talk about the examples.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, we're gonna miss you next year. Jalen bowling.
Wish I was there for Wolves.
I know, you must be a bit bummed out.